On the surface, there's a president speaking to school children rather nicely and kindly and benevolently, and he leaves out the fact that after he was a poor kid who couldn't go to school, he somehow went to Punahou High School, which is a very expensive private high school in Hawaii, which never comes up. How did that happen? How did he have no money and go to Punahou High School? That's left out of the narrative, but then everybody wants to make themselves into something different in order to tell their story. Lincoln walked to school 15 miles, whatever. Lincoln wrote with a quill, whatever. Lincoln freed the slaves. It wasn't about a trade war between the North and South. Lincoln was a great man. Lincoln wasn't a great man. Washington had false teeth. He didn't have false teeth. Jefferson was a good man, and Jefferson kept slaves. It depends upon what you want. It's a duality. Dualism lives through all of us because that's why we're living east of Eden, because we're not God. And because we're not God, we are fallen. And because we're fallen, we're man. And because we're man, we're never going to be right. And although Humpty Dumpty had a great fall, Humpty could never be put together again. And therefore, we are living in an imperfect world, but it's getting worse, not better. And that's why you have to stay very tuned into what the politicians are trying to do to you. Because one thing you should know for sure, which is that when the Democrats and Republicans get along and they have a so-called bipartisan agreement, you can be sure to one thing: the American people are getting screwed royally. The object of a two-party system is to have vocal disagreements in the marketplace of ideas, not for them to be gentlemen from the aisle across the floor. Will the gentle lady from the gutters of the slums of Minneapolis please rise to put forth her rubbish so she can pull the wool over the people's eyes who put the comedian in power? Yes, I will, because it's the year of the woman, and the year of the woman is the year of goodness and kindness and wonderfulness, because we all know the woman is better than the man, and look what we have since the year of the woman. It's gotten better, much better, nicer and better. And there's Nancy Pelosi, who says no matter what the people want, they are louts, they are Nazis, they're no good nicks, and only I know what's good because I am the Queen of Diamonds, and I whispered in the ear of all of those who spoke before they had the strings put upon their wrists by Dianne Feinstein, the shopping cart lady who has not been heard from in a very long time. And here we are in the Savage Nation today after Labor Day, and I hope you're doing well. Hope you've had a nice time. Barbecue. Take me out to the ball game. Here we are, American. Wear the shorts, hit the ball. My, it's still hot. When is the summer ever going to end? What's going in Washington? I don't know, dear. I don't pay any attention to politics. After all, it's all rubbish. They'll do what they want to do anyway, and he's just like all the rest of them. He's no more dangerous than Bush. He's not any different. Come on. You're a racist if you think he is. You're just against blacks. You know that. So don't you dare raise a voice of protest against socialism. What are you talking about? It's not socialism. What is socialism? Well, I don't know, but he's not a socialist. Well, how can you say he's not a socialist if you don't know what a socialist is? It doesn't matter what I know or I don't know. I just know that he's a good man, a nice man, and he is a man who's bringing us change. And all change is good change. All progress is good progress. All progress is good progress, and all change is good change. And so, therefore, anyone who opposes him is a mean right-wing racist. Just ask Reverend Wright. He's a man who knows what's right. That's why his name was right. He didn't get that name right because he's wrong. He got that name right because he's always right. And if the president sat and listened to him for 20 straight years saying that the white man did this, the white man polluted that, and Van Jones says that the white man put pollutants into the neighborhoods of the minorities, therefore, you are aboard with that because that's what's happening. That's the story. That's it. You don't need to know anymore. What you need to know is what they tell you to know. And so, therefore, you got to read about the Khmer Rouge. You got to understand about the red scarfs and how the nice little man went to Paris. He didn't mean any harm. He only wanted to make Cambodia a more fair place. He wanted change. Pol Pot was a professor. He wanted change for Cambodia. Now, he didn't know exactly how to bring about change because he was a little man, a little professor, a small-minded little professor at that. So he figured he'd learn big things in Paris. And because that's where all the intellectual giants, going back to Voltaire and before, they went to study in Paris, the land of liberté, equalité, fraternité. So the little man from Cambodia goes to Paris, and he gets indoctrinated with Marxism at the university in Paris. And he comes back and says, man, I'm going to bring about change to my country of Cambodia. Yeah, it's very, very bad because we got poor here. And we got rich here, and there's a middle class, eyeglasses. There's the people who got educated in Hong Kong, and they got educated in Paris. And they're no good because they make a lot of money, and it's not trickling down to the poor. There's no trickle-down poverty here. So I'm going to make sure everyone's equal in Cambodia. But wait a minute, they're not going to listen to me. Now, what do I say to them? They don't want to give up their houses in Cambodia. They don't want to give up their houses to the poor. They're mean. Now, although we're one race, and because we're one race, I can't use racism, which I learned in the School of Theological Divisions in Paris. Try race where there's racial differential. Since there's no race to use in Cambodia because we're all one race of Cambodians, try using class warfare. Turn the poor against the rich. That's not working. Then take the amoral, brainwashed youth of Cambodia, give them an AK-47, put a red bandana on their head, give them a name called the Khmer Rouge, and tell them to go out and round up anybody with eyeglasses. And then you'll have a mountain of skulls at the end of the Marxist revolution, the change in Cambodia. Now, it can't happen here, I recognize that, because we have a country with checks and balances, and we have a CIA that's definitely not going to let that happen. We have an FBI that makes sure that wouldn't happen. And, well, although they didn't function recently because they're under attack by the Khmer Rouge inside the government in their own way, go after the CIA, make things up, say they did this, they did that. While they're protecting us, say they were fighting us. While they're protecting us, say they were killing us. While they're keeping our worst enemies from bombing airplanes in the sky, say they were trying to kill us. So neutralize the CIA so they can't unleash the documents about the individuals in the Obama White House who couldn't even pass a security clearance. Make certain that the CIA is neutralized, use the Queen of Diamonds to do it. And then go on a little further, make sure the FBI doesn't do anything except make sure they look at EEOC booklets and see how they can get advanced, and make sure that they're only looking into racism and homophobia, not really looking into terrorism, because that way they'll be safe on the side. And then create your own civilian national security force, bigger and better and wiser and stronger than the U.S. military. But that got subverted. Because the guy they had in place to build up that national security force, first they called him a Green Czar. What you don't know is that Adolf Hitler was an early Green. You don't know that because you don't know history. Adolf Hitler came to power on many different platforms. You heard about the anti-Semitism, which is true. But you didn't know he was an overt socialist who was also an early back-to-nature man. That's why all the little boys in the Lederhosen marched in the woods together. The little boys, the Hitler Youth, they loved nature, the Edelweiss was so beautiful, the Edelweiss flowers up in the Alpine. I love the fatherland. And they marched in the Lederhosen, and they loved nature. They slept in the outdoors, and they had bonfires, and they loved the pine trees, and they loved the snow. And they were, therefore, the early Greens, and they were called National Socialists, and all they wanted to do was make a society of equals. Nobody would be different in Germany. In the new Germany, everybody would be the same. And guess what? It worked, because that charismatic man from Vienna, he brought everybody together except those nasty Jews and the gypsies and the communists and the trade unionists. They had to go because they weren't like the others, and therefore they went. And the reason the economy got good is because they stole everything from the Jews, and they gave it to themselves, and therefore the economy looked like it was doing good. But one of the main things that Hitler used to bring Germany back from the ashes of defeat and the League of Nations reparations was great public works spending. Like all dictators, Hitler knew that the only way to make the people feel good was to put money in their pocket and give them jobs. And so he created great jobs. And they built the Autobahn with public funds, stolen at that. Either you took it from the Jews, or you took it from the Poles, or you took it from the Czechs, or you took it from the Romanians, or you took it from whoever. But you used the money, you invented the money, you printed the money. Didn't matter how, the Deutschmark became stronger. And the Edelweiss smelled even better, and the snow got whiter, and the tablecloths got whiter in all the German homes, and the girls got blonder, and the people got brighter. And no one knew where the money was coming from. But it didn't matter that Jews were being systematically killed and beaten to death. It didn't matter that countries are being invaded. All that mattered was everybody was marching and smelling the Edelweiss and looking at the pristine snow and eating strudel on clean white tablecloths. And the trickle-down economy was working because he was pumping it in through public works projects. That's how he rebuilt Germany, public works projects. Now, medical care was free in the new Germany, except for those in slave labor camps who had no medical care. They didn't need it because they were subhumans. They didn't need medical care. The only people who needed medical care were the good, clean Germans who deserved it. The subhumans didn't deserve medical care, and so therefore they got the medical care that they deserved, which was no medical care in the death camps, and so the others got the good, clean German medical care. Now, it's true that the others were subhumans and they could be of some use, so they were used in medical experiments in order to make certain that the good, clean German had good medicine, so they experimented on subhumans while they were alive, all sorts of experiments to see how it would work. And that's what happens when you bring about change in a dramatic, revolutionary way. And in only a few short years, the new Germany arose and everyone was happy. I'll be right back.
Savage.